Hello and welcome back to the Parents Union. And I am Kelly Williams-Bolar with the Parent Effect. Today, I'm so excited. I have a retired lieutenant, Michael Boykin, who resides in Florida. Hi, are you there? See you anywhere? There he goes. Am I stuck?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, technology always is a challenge, but you just have to work through it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I just saw myself freeze for a second, so it's all good.
Well, thanks for having me first and foremost.
I'm excited. This is going to be a full half an hour of good knowledge, good information, and fun.
Well, you know, I just admire what you're doing, and you know, education is definitely the key to everything. So you are right on that front line.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, I was looking at your bio and it's filled with so much. You've accomplished so much in the world. Let's start off. I know you're a dad and you're a husband. So let's talk about that. You have, how many kids do you have?
I have 3 kids.
Three kids?
My daughter is the oldest, and I have 2 boys.
Two boys.
Total,
that's what I always wanted 2 boys and a girl, and it didn't work out that way. And after I got the 2 girls first, I was like, that's it.
Well, you know what I found out though is when you have 3, it doesn't matter which 2 are together; they get along just fine. Once the 3rd one is there, there's always calamity.
It changed the whole.
It changes the dynamics.
I know, and you have a beautiful wife. What is her name?
Her name is Gwendolyn Dolores. We call her Dee.
Okay.
We surprised her with we did a little vegetable garden for Mother's Day, and we basically we built it, you know, made it right here at home, and filled it up with different vegetables for her. So we, you know, walked around to the side of the house, closed her eyes. She had no idea what we were going to show her, and she was really surprised when she saw it. She'd always been talking about one.
I bet she was surprised. Now she got to maintain it. She's ready for that, huh?
Well, I've kind of gotten part of those tasks, so on the maintaining.
I get it. Now, we are in what I want to say our 13th week of this Corona situation. So I just want to ask you, how are you getting along, and how are you, you know, just dealing with the whole Corona thing and staying at home and trying to stay safe?
Well, we're following all the precautions. We really try to limit going out. And when we do, you know, we make sure we follow the social distancing and always wear the mask. I even wear glasses to make sure, because, I mean, you know, you have moisture in your eyes, and certainly a droplet could come in that way as well.
Absolutely.
So now my wife is in the medical field. She's a nurse, so she's exposed in a lot of ways. So they have to take extra precautions there. And as a nurse, you know, she's always religiously washed her clothing when she gets home, constantly washes her hands. So this is nothing new for her. So
right.
We really are just trying to, you know, follow what the news and the local officials tell us. However, right now, if you really follow the news, you'll see that the cases are on the rise in like 19 different states. We may have opened up too early.
Yeah, I did. I have watched that on CNN. And, you know, first of all, I want to say I take my hat off to her. She is a true essential worker. She is right there on the forefront of what is going on. Even if she may not be in that department, if she's even in something else, she's still a registered nurse. So I definitely take my hat off to her. So let her know I said hello, and you know,
I will certainly convey that information. And like I say, you know, those frontline workers, you don't really appreciate what they do until you get into a situation like this. I mean, we're talking a worldwide pandemic. And I mean, you know, unfortunately, the US, because of negligence, we are at the forefront of the number of cases and the number of deaths.
Absolutely. Oh, and I'm glad you said that. I have with me, I'm going to read off some things, and I wanted to write it down because I wanted to make sure that, you know, I asked proper questions. And one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was, do you think, well, with everything that's going on and the police and the situation with our policing in world or countrywide, do you think that they're being trained more of like more of a military, versus just being many years ago?
Police.
Yes.
Well, they years ago they were given permission to get some of the extra or non-used military equipment. That was a bad decision. Our policemen should not be militarized at all. Okay, there are a lot of countries over, say in Europe, for instance. A lot of these countries there, Norway, Germany, even in England. I mean, some of the police don't even carry guns. Now, they may have a gun in their car, but on their personal, even when they're in uniform, they are not carrying a weapon. Unfortunately, we're in the US where people know more about the Second Amendment than they understand anything about the First. So, if you talk to them, oh, I know my Second Amendment rights, and right away they go right to a gun, right? Now, what about that First Amendment? There was a reason the First Amendment came first. The right to have peaceful protests, the right to assemble for that, and also the free press. Well, to me, it's more of an issue to where if you can't express yourself on the First Amendment, then you're missing the boat by not understanding how important that one is and going straight to something that gives you a weapon where you could possibly, instead of using your words, you just pull out your gun and start shooting.
Yes. I just on a daily, I may scroll through my social media, and it's ironic you said that, because there was a young boy, he's 18, 19 years old. He works with Prime. So that's his job, is to drive around and to deliver boxes. I don't know if you've seen it. I just saw this a few hours ago. This young man delivered a box and was on his way back to his car or his van, the Prime van, that is. And a police officer got him, tackled him, put him down to the ground. This is in Illinois. And everybody came out of their house and it was like, this is Prime. He's a worker. And he said, well, he took him to jail. He arrested him, called for backup, told them that he parked on the wrong side of the road. Now, wouldn't that just be a parking violation or some, wouldn't you just get a ticket for that?
It amazes me that our police officers, not all of them, okay, there's some good cops out there, but there's a lot of them that really soil the ranks. And when I say soil the ranks, they don't care about your human rights. They really are agitated if they're dealing with you and you just happen to be somebody of color, Black or brown American. They immediately go right to the nth degree as far as what your intentions are, and they clearly show you what their intentions are. There's nothing worse, and I've had this happen where I was pulled over. I was driving, a pretty nice automobile when the cop pulled me over. His excuse was, well, cars like this have been reported stolen. And what was so frustrating was, as he pulled me over, his attitude, he wouldn't say anything to me. I'm asking him, officer, why are you pulling me over? Okay, wouldn't say a word, license, registration, and just boom, 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 boom. Okay, so I had all that handy, gave it to him, went through the checklist as I went through and said, okay, I'm pulling out my license, I'm pulling out my registration, did all of that. Finally, towards the end, he finally said, well, this car, obviously it's not stolen, but you've got and I had at the time over the license tag, there was like a shield, which kind of had like a tint to it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he says, well, I'm supposed to be able to see that from 50 feet away. And I'm like, that's viewable from 50 feet away. Anyway, that was the end of the conversation. He drove off. I mean, he was just as rude as you can be. And that's not the only instance of where I've had those kind of things happen when you encounter a police officer. And I tell our young people, when that cop pulls you over, your job is to, okay, whatever he's going to do, he's going to do. Don't agitate it. If it has to go to court, your fight now becomes with the judicial system, whether it's the lawyer or your judge. Let him go ahead and write you the ticket, because if you give him the opportunity, he will certainly slap those cuffs on you and haul you away. Now, unfortunately, that's policing in America on the Black side. On the white side, I'm standing in the grocery store one day, And a police officer was there, he's in uniform, and he knew the lady that was a couple people ahead of me. He said, oh, the other night, I pulled your son over, and I knew your son. He says, but he was drinking, had a couple beers, and I just took his beers and said, okay, you're going home, I'm gonna follow you, make sure you get home. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if that had been a black kid, that kid would have been arrested, handcuffed, roughed up, put in that car. Now he's got a record. Okay?
Ruined.
Have him marked for the rest of his life.
That's right. And you're right. You mentioned earlier, all cops are not the same. You're right. They're not. I have plenty of times where I work in the school system, and the police officers, they build a rapport with our kids. They build a rapport. They trust the kids, trust them. They trust the kids. It's a whole community filled with, just acknowledging, and they're more of a coaching versus just automatically looking at you as if you're crying because you have color. So you are right. There are good ones, but then
and that should extend across all communities. All right. When you say the kids build that trust starting at a young age, I certainly admire, some police officers, what they do day in, day out, but there are some out there that are, mixed in, like this officer that just murdered George Floyd. Okay. Yeah. This man had 18 complaints in 19 years. All right. Now, what's wrong with that picture? How are you going to have 18 complaints? That's almost a complaint a year. Yeah. And so no one's looking at that. I mean, that should have been looked at, and he should have been pulled aside. We're going to, again, back to education and training. If you can't get on board with what needs to be done, you work for the people, right? As a police officer, you are trusted as an officer to, protect and serve. Yes. And, you should be covering that for every single citizen in the U.S.
And, when they initially showed his mugshot, you knew it was of a picture that looked like it was 10 years ago. So he had already, like you said, he had already been in trouble, and they let it go. And they used that old mugshot and then he went on and updated him. And then you saw a more current, mugshot of him. So, like you said, he had 18 other issues, complaints, and then he had already been in trouble. And then this man still has a gun on his hip. He still is able to, police, and it's just amazing to me because everything trickles down. It's not even about, a lot of times people think that the thugs are just people that are, no, it starts in the big house. The thugs, the thugs start in the big house, and it trickles down to what's going on in our communities.
You are so right on that. I'm watching just recently. You can't help but hear the news. I mean, it's just you're surrounded in it. But we just had some of the top cabinet members, including the Attorney General, who feel that there is no systemic racism. Okay, now I can give you a perfect example that just happened again with the George Floyd case. Think back, and this is something that I really get upset with on the media because they cover things and they go down a path. But when you talk about systemic, why have we not heard anything else back about the initial autopsy that occurred on George Floyd? That autopsy said the cops did nothing wrong. This man had, background underlying health issues, and his death was a result of that. The family, and now a lot of people can't afford to go out and have their own autopsy done, right? The family was able to get, I don't know how they arranged it, but they were able to get an autopsy done, which did not corroborate that first autopsy report. Now, why is that? Why did we not get an accurate autopsy report? That needs to be investigated, and those people that put that bogus report out, their job needs to be taken. They need to be fired.
Yes, that's right.
I try to take the emotion out of things, but thank God for technology and the video cameras now, because now all of America can see what we have seen, the bizarre nature of what we have to live through day to day.
That was the pimple that popped. No matter what, we've had so many scenarios and we dealt with it. And in all honesty, I mean, we don't want revenge. Like, it's so many that people, we as a people, I can see that if we just went out there and said, no, we want revenge. No, we want equality. That's a big difference. And if
equality and quality of life, we want to be, you know, we are a creative people.
Respect.
Look at all the stuff that we do that they borrow and they use, and that's fine, okay? You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with emulating what someone else does as long as it's something good. Well, a lot of stuff that we do, that we produce, just think if we had our kids on the same, well, starting with you, for instance, okay, I know your history. You try to get your daughters into a good school to give them a better start. Okay, well, what if you didn't have to go to another neighborhood just to get your kids educated? If you were able to give those daughters and our sons a quality education, right? And you address all the underlying issues as far as the economics and the healthcare and all that, and those kids can go and compete on an equal footing. They could be as creative. Think about some of the things we've accomplished. The very first open heart surgery, okay? That was a Black surgeon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? The traffic lights that we use, every day, that was a Black engineer. Okay. You know, but they don't teach you about these people in school. Now, I got a guy on my left shoulder here. I can probably show that picture to him. I don't even see it. I can maybe zoom in a little bit, but
it has a little glare, but I can.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to see it, but let me see if I can get that in a little closer here.
Let me see. Oh yeah.
Can you see that? Okay.
Yes.
So now I can show that picture to most people, and they won't have a clue who he is. That's Matthew Henson.
Matthew Henson.
Okay? Matthew Henson. His parents died when he was young. He was born 1700s. Right after slavery had ended. And actually, it was right after slavery had ended. But he lost his parents early on, and he literally was on his own after about the age of 13. Okay, he signed on to be a cabin boy, a steward on board a ship. And by the time he was 19, he had pretty much traveled the world. Okay, now you may know the name Perry. You know that name, Perry? Perry discovered the North Pole. Actually, Perry was in a sled with frostbitten toes about 1.5 to 3 miles behind because he wasn't able to keep up because the Inuit Indians that were helping him move along on the sled were obviously behind the party that Henson was in. So he was the first person to sit atop the world, a Black man.
Oh, now I do remember that. I do remember that.
But now,
but like you said, they don't talk about it in our books. You get one paragraph, and that's MLK in our history books, and then that's it. That's our history, and then they don't, really recognize all the things that we've accomplished. And who would think we had to make easier, efficient ways because we were the laborers.
Well, we have introduced to the world, more along the lines of mathematics, science, medicine. What the current world has done is produce ways to kill each other.
Yeah.
Okay. The U.S. is very good at that. We are adept in being able to take you out. That's why we believe in that Second Amendment. Now, I'm a gun owner. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I certainly, but I don't put that amendment before the First Amendment. The First Amendment is really what brings the creativity. So when I look at, when we say Black Lives Matter, they counter with Blue Lives Matter, Pink Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Gray Lives Matter, my legal system matters. Okay, that's fine and good. But we all, as human beings, all we're saying is Black Lives Matter.
Right, that's right. Equality matters. Yes.
So if we can keep the focus, there's only 1% of the population that's actually out there, that's actually able to actually go out there as we speak, that are, protesting, peaceful protests. That's only 1% of this population. Where's the other 99%? Most of them are unchanged, sitting at home in the comfort of their homes. They may be, looking at it, but until you educate and get into their brains, you're not going to change much.
No, you're not. No, it's the marching, the protesting. I mean, like you said, those are all bringing awareness, but we have to make a change, and it has to be done in a way that I don't want to say. Can I say systematic? I'm not. It has to be done in a way that's going to make a change, period. I don't know exactly how, because I'm just a mom
no one's just anything. I've never looked at any human being that way. You're never just a janitor or just a teacher or just, you're a dynamic human being capable of learning anything. You have the ability in your brain. I mean, this guy here I just talked about, Henson, he was a mathematician, he was a navigator. I mean, he did all that stuff. He spoke the Inuit language. Okay.
The Indian language?
He spoke their language. He learned their language so he could communicate with part of that team that went up to the North Pole. Okay, so Perry didn't do that. Perry, he was doing other things, but that's what Henson brought to it. Now, we have to understand just how important every single human being is. So when we kill someone like George Floyd, and the list goes on and on, it hurts every single one of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It hurts everyone. And since you mentioned that, I did also, and this was on the news, just the other day, there was a Native American, and she was a young girl. She was at like a 7-Eleven, a little grocery store. And this lady, did you hear about this? The lady went up to her and she was arguing with her, and she told her to go back to Mexico. Okay, so that's when I guess this gentleman, he decided, this was worth videotaping. So he started videotaping it. And the lady was irate. She was up, who knows what her deal was, but she told the girls to go back to, Mexico. And she was like, what? First of all, she said, I'm Native American. She said, you go back to where you belong. You think, I just, when she said that, I was just sitting there like, this is getting good, and then she gave her one good one across the face too. Now, and I've never,
but we should try to use our words. Dialogue is so critical and so important. And so a lot of times it's just how we approach a given situation. A good example, look at just what transpired up in the nation's capital. Okay, now we know the administration cleared the park out just so we could do a photo op. But let's talk beyond that. Okay, the mayor, Muriel Bowser, the creativity and the adhesion that she showed for getting the police officers and the people together literally stopped any rioting or looting or anything else. And a lot of that did occur along those lines were different gang members and different groups, even some of the folks on the far right. But Muriel Bowser had them paint Black Lives Matter in gold, like 12-foot letters, and spread that down that plaza, rename the plaza.
Street. Yep.
Okay. Yes. Now think what that did for that crowd. That gave that crowd a focus point. I call it focus the land, FTL. When I call it FTL, focus the lens. Okay. Okay. So now we'll talk about that in a second as far as what that lens is going to do for us, that technology. But now let's look at the approach that the administration took. So we had two converging trains of thoughts with very diverging actions. Bowser brought people together. She did something very creative. She quelled any possible outcome as far as violence and looting and rioting. People just simply said, "Hey, First Amendment. We want to march. We want to peacefully protest, which is our given right." The administration, on the other hand, barricades, fencing, called in the National Guard. Now, I'm from that area where they mobilized the 82nd Airborne. Okay, and the Airborne, they were prepared. In fact, some of them were actually sent up to the Washington area. Okay, part of the equipment they had, not only their guns, but the bayonets at the end of the guns. Now, you tell me you're going to bayonet American citizens when they're following the constitutional rights. So that kind of thought process says we got something woefully wrong with leadership.
Yes. Oh, and then it got gassed. And then then they kept saying that it didn't get gassed. And they were like, we did get gassed, and it was showing footage of it. I mean, that whole scenario was horrible. Like, just for you to get a photo, with a Bible. And then don't forget the she said, she was like, no, she said that he's never even been here. Like he's never even been to a service. And then for that to happen, she was really distraught about it. And they talked about it for a couple of days. And now what I do want to ask you, so I've been watching Cornel West. I've been listening to Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, and they were saying that, you know, our Constitution is so at risk. And as you know, you are a retired lieutenant in the Navy. So I just want to get your perspective. What I'm kind of got it, but I just want you to say, do you feel the same? Like our Constitution is at jeopardy. I'm so sorry. I got a tongue tied today.
Well, every action that I have personally seen from this administration is you have a guy who wants to be a despot, okay, an authoritarian leader, a dictator. I think the guy from over in North Korea, he called him a doter. Mm-hmm. All right, now, and I have to side with that because he has definitely trounced the Constitution, and he has also divided us in a lot of ways. And so I think that if America doesn't wake up, America needs to be woke. Okay, that's the urban term where you are wide awake and you understand what's going on. America at this point in time needs to be woke. We're dealing with not only an epidemic, we're dealing with the stock market that's bending at his will, because the market is showing that it's a bull market when really you got 40 million people unemployed. You got 13.5 to 14%, actually unemployed of all the workforce. Mm-hmm. And to say that, you know, everything's going up, well, that's a false, misleading picture of what's really happening. So now back to your original question on the Constitution. Yes, it's being trounced on. I'm really waiting to see the outcome of what the Supreme Court does as far as the oversight, seeing its taxes. This man has even said, not only can you not see my taxes, you can't even look at one of the companies that actually process my taxes. Mm. If the Supreme Court were to come back and rule, now he stacked the court, I really feel he has, but if the Supreme Court were to come back and say, okay, Congress, you have no oversight, that is an equal body of the government. Mm-hmm. And they were put there, the Congress was established for that specific reason, oversight. So if the Supreme Court comes back and rules in his favor, mm-hmm. then we are woefully down the trail of a dictatorship.
Oh my, okay, all right. So yeah, I want to see what's going to happen with that as well. And I remember before my father passed, he used to always say that our country is almost like we are in the land of Nod. So when you said that we need to wake up, it's like, yeah, because I remember my father saying that we are in the land of Nod. We are asleep and we need to wake up. But I also want to mention something else. Now, I only have maybe a couple of minutes left. And I was looking, I noticed something this was a training in Florida. The Florida police, this was a few years back. But this was like down in Miami. It says Florida police shot images of Black men in training. Did you know that?
Oh yeah, that was North Miami. The North Miami. North Miami. They actually had pictures of people who were wanted, right? Mm-hmm. of black, say people that they were looking for. They used, and the reason they got discovered, I think there was a reservist who was using the range, and they had left some of those pictures on the range. So when the police were done, this lady came out and said, what is this, And that's when it got out what they were doing. Now, It's one thing to use a commercial target. I mean, you don't even have to use a target of someone who's black, white, red, yellow. Okay, there's other colors in the rainbow. Guess what? I've never seen a purple or a green person. If you really got to get a target made, use that. That way you're not offending anyone. But now,
right, not an actual photo of someone.
Not an actual photo, but we go back to like you said on your father. We're nodding off. Even the systemic presentations that we have to look at on TV and how they depict us as characters, and how we always have a lesser part, and how we always have a good example. This insurance company. And I'm going to say their name because I wrote them I won't say a nasty letter. I always try to take the emotions out of it, Kelly, because then you can get more progress made. But
yes,
you learn, and this is why I really try to tell our kids, you've got to have you've got to master the English language. I used to review resumes and I can tell I want to hire this kid versus that one because this one misspelled something or used something out of context. So a lot of times we get we get not looked at because we didn't have that basic training to get us in the door. Okay, so this insurance company made a commercial. You may have seen this. They've got a character that's called a Motar.
I'm not sure. No, I don't think.
So the commercial, you can look this up. He's half man, he's half motorcycle.
Oh, I have seen it. Yes.
It's a black man.
Uh-huh.
Now, I wrote them a letter saying, you know, you're basically dehumanizing a black male by doing that. First of all, you're taking this from Greek mythology, which was a minotaur. And a minotaur made it, well, basically his mother was a woman, and he made it with a white bull. So if anything, if you're going to use a depiction of that Greek mythology, it should have been a white bull or white male, based on a minotaur. Now, I wrote that letter about a year ago. Last week, I saw the latest rendition of their commercial, and now they've got, it's like a bunch of these half man, they're different colors though, right? So, I mean, you know, you see white, black, Hispanic, they're all riding through the field. And this guy now, he raises up like he's a horse, and that's fine, okay? But why didn't you go through the research to do that to begin with?
Right, okay? Right, exactly. Because
they didn't do that.
No, and so many times they think that we are not, like you said, that we're not, like we're just, either they're super scared of us, or they think that we are super strong or something, like we're not human. And so, like you said, it takes away the humanity, who we are. And we are human, and we do bleed, and we do love, and we are fathers and mothers.
We love our kids like they do.
Like
education, I know we're gonna run out of time, but education disparity is where we have to get the gap closed. Not only educating blacks, but educating whites. I mean, you really have to have, when I was in the military, one of the questions they asked us was, what's the very first thing you notice about someone? I'm gonna ask you that as a question. What do you?
What they look, their gender, they're black, they're white.
No, hold on. The very first thing you notice subconsciously is whether they're male or female.
Yes.
Okay, now after that, your likes and dislikes will kick in. Tall, short, fat, skinny, white, black. Okay, so it's a learned response when you look at a person and say, oh, I don't like them because they're black. Okay, it's the melanin in your skin, which just happens to be darker than, someone who may have came from, someone in Northern Europe where you had a colder climate and you were inside a lot more. Okay, so the melanin, could have changed. But the education across the country is what's needed. Not just educating the police, but educating that 99% that is still sitting on the sideline. And yes. Kelly, I applaud you because I know what you fought for and what you're fighting for. And I hope your show will continue. And I hope that you'll be able to really look at how we educate people to make them understand, we're just this little small planet. Very
That's
small.
Right. And we want to live comfortable. We want to live in peace. We want to be productive citizens in society. That's what we want. That's what we've been born and raised to be great people, and give us an opportunity. You don't know where we can go in life, and we all can have a piece of the opportunities, it's equal opportunity for everyone. Now, before I go, I know we've a little bit over the 30 minutes, a half an hour, but I just want to say to my audience, thank you for watching. Oh my gosh, I am just so grateful, so thankful that you tune in and that you listen to what's going on and what we're talking about in our dialogue. I mean, you can do anything, and you can be anywhere, you can do anything, and you decide to come in and even listen to me for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is. So I truly thank you. I have great gratitude for that. And I'm so happy to have retired Lieutenant Michael Boykin aboard. I do want you back. I love your perspective. I'm so happy. I also noticed that you have a degree in psychology, so we can get really deep. So
actually, I got a master's. I got an engineering master's.
An engineer. Okay, so you got your engineering degree, and you have your psychology too, right?
Well, it's industrial. Or yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. But I just want to say, excuse me. Press on. We probably could use you in Congress one day, soon.
Okay.
You could certainly, like I say, because education. We have got to get how we look at things as far as education right now. Educating our police officers, getting them to work with the technology that we have. Every cop should have a body cam on, and the cam should be on at all times. When you engage whatever person, it needs to be
on, and the audio needs to be on too, so they can see and hear what is going on. That's right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I will have you on again. If you would love to come on, I will definitely have you on again. We have great dialogue.
Right, thanks for having me, Kelly.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.